Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 3 finale of Resident Alien. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. And when I say a lot, there's so many moving pieces, there's so many plot threads set up and stuff like that. Obviously, we're picking up where the last episode left off. Harry thinks that his bomb was stolen. He's thinking Joseph did it. Must have sucked in him while I was asleep. And I love that the general's so upset. She basically goes like, oh, the fact is, I wanted your help with aliens because her plan is, like, ever since she's like, I saw your ship all those years ago and what happened to my dad. And just like, I want to prove aliens exist, but I also want to find the means of wiping them all out. And he's like, all aliens? She's like, you're one of the good ones. He's like, haha, I caught you in racism. It's like, ugh, like... I mean, understandable, you have like a, personal vendetta against aliens, but to go all genocidal like that, like, oh yeah, all aliens need to die. Had no idea that was her perspective in all of this. She's like, no, but you're one of the good ones, so you'll be fine. But it's like, okay. She also got introduced to Bridget, who's shape-shifting as her, so that was interesting. I love that, obviously, it took Asta being the one, like, obviously, Darcy stole the bomb, and he was like, no, it's Joseph. And Joseph was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. What bomb? Okay. Oh, yeah, it was Darcy. Because, once again, like, I connected that dot last episode. I'm like, well, Elliot's probably going to call Asta because Asta's Darcy's best friend. So, like, of course, you're going to call her to be like, yo, like, Darcy was acting weird. Can you, like, tell me, like, what's going on with that? So it's like, right, her wanting to do something impressive, which she is taking video footage and stuff like that. I love, she's like, this will probably be the last one. This will probably be the last one. Like, give me a bronze statue in memoriam for what I'm doing, but also make sure you spell my name right. It's capital D apostrophe little a. The A is not capitalized. But either way, because once again, the sad thing is like Darcy feels like this is the only way she can make an impact. It's like, right, I thought my legacy was, scheme, but it's like, no, it's not. My legacy is to save the world. Like, this is the greatest thing I could do, And it's just like feeling like this is the only, like, once again, feeling that void inside of herself that she has to go so above and beyond. And obviously Asta is worried about it. It's like, let's go save her. But then, Joseph shows up. And I love, like, him finally turning against the Greys, which I was like, oh, that's a sudden shift. But it's because he's like, oh, he had no idea what their plan actually was. Because he's like, all right, read this and tell me if what this like formula means. And if you say that it's about an ice cream, I will not probably believe you. I was like, once again, I love that. Like, it isn't just Harry that's an idiot. It seems like a lot of aliens are idiots. I love it. It's like, yeah, you're smart in other ways, but then you're like stupid in others, especially like Harry and Joseph. But yeah, like they're terraforming this planet so that nothing human-based can survive. It can only the Greys can, and that counts for hybrids like himself. It's like, oh, which makes me wonder: do the other hybrids know what they're helping kill themselves? I mean, I guess that was always just like the long plan of it all. It's like, right, you're always meant to be useful tools. It's probably like the Greys are probably all about purification in a weird way. They're probably like supposed to be like an opposite spectrum to the general, where she wants to wipe out all aliens. They want to wipe out all. I don't know if they're trying to replace every planet and make it their own, or did they specifically choose Earth? Are they doing this on other planets, or is it just Earth? Why Earth? So there's that element to it, but they were just always a means to an end, and now it's like, well, I don't want... Joseph's like, right, he's looking out for himself. This is self-preservation, so I love the extra motivation. It's like, right, if you help us, you get to date Asta again. And she's like, no, how about we focus on saving the world? He's like, she's just playing hard to get. You'll get her. It seemed like Joseph was almost like, huh, he didn't fight. He's like, all right, let's date. Let's get it. Let's do it. It's like, yeah, he does seem interesting because, like, regardless of it all, he does seem to like Asta. So that was kind of interesting. But for Asta, it's like, I'm not going to date you again. She's like, yeah, you were really nice. I saw the human side of you before, you threatened to murder me. So... But his whole thing of like, oh yeah, like, the friend with the clown hair. Oh yeah, with the stupid. It's like, no, shut up. Yes, Darcy's going off to do something. Yes, stupid. So the whole plan was to stop it. And I love Harry's breakdown of like, part 1 is this. 2, 3, 4, got all the way up to 9 because he didn't want Asta to come along. I love one of the parts was like, don't put your hands on your hip and look at me that way. He's also pissed too that she didn't invite him to Kayla's party, which I loved. She's like, I didn't think... He can't even get Kayla's name right. So ultimately, they use the Joseph's teleporter to get them to Yellowstone so they could stop the water situation, because we got to stop that douchebag Frank, who's the one using Harry's last spear. So luckily, Joseph was able to stop that. He turned all the water. It seemed like he turned it into sand. So that put a wrench in that plan. I love that the entire time, like, that sequence is going on where, like, Joseph's fighting that other hybrid, and just, like, Harry's like, oh, I need another one of those portal remotes because Asa took one and she's on the gray ship now, so I need to follow suit. It's like, of course, like, Asa's not going to sit behind while, like, her best friend is in danger, especially because it's like, yeah, Harry wants to protect people, but Darcy's such a low priority. If she was more of a priority, like, Asa would probably feel more comfortable leaving it to Harry, but he also kept being like, if there's time on the docket, will save Darcy. So it's like, I have to be the one there to save Darcy because she's not as high of a priority for anyone else, because Harry's just about like, I'm going to blow up the gray ship. That's all he cares about. So, and also, once again, Asta, I'm sure, like, takes some fault in it because of where Harry and Darcy have been for the past couple episodes. She's like, right, like, if we were in a better spot, I would have been there and probably talked her out from doing something like this. So I think she takes blame, but also it's like, right, she's a helper, and it's like, I mean, general, it's like, hey, it's my friend, so I'm going to try and help my friend out regardless of, the circumstances, so. But the moment both Darcy and Asa had gotten on a ship, they both got captured. But it was kind of nice, the heart-to-heart that they had, where it's just like Darcy, and I think this kind of speaks volumes, like Darcy, I mean, and it also shows like how long they've been friends. They've been friends since they were kids and everything, so it's a long best friendship. But the fact is that Darcy constantly references stuff from like when they were super, super young, but like I said, that's just kind of a representation of like how far they go back. But I feel like that could also be a commentary on like, oh yeah, like how Darcy focuses on like how far they go back, how she remembers even the smallest stuff. It's like, right, first time we met, you gave me a piggyback ride. It's like, no, you hopped on my back and you were like green light. And so, yeah, but it's like for us, it's like hearing you laugh, like, I want that laughter in my life forever. But Darcy's like, I don't want to be a burden, like feel like a weight that you have to, I mean, the only reason why you're in this situation is to come help me again. Like, I don't want to be that anchor around you, dragging you down. But it's like, no, like helping people helps me. Like, obviously it's like, yeah, like I deflect so I don't have to worry about my own BS, but also helping people helps me. Like, because I think it is a double-edged sword of, I'm not focusing on my own stuff, but it makes me feel good to help people. I think there is that element of it, especially when it's someone she cares about. It's like, I love you, too. Oh, did you bring your toothbrush? Oh, we can make a shank out of it. It's like, no, I need to brush my teeth. It's so interesting to know that like Asa's so like hygienic of like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Even though I'm in an alien jail, I'm still worried about my hygiene. And it speaks volumes about Asa. But it's like, I would need to, it's like, wait, you were going to use my toothbrush? You weren't going to let me? And Darcy's like, Also love the alien that's across from them. It's like the mantis thing that eats people. I felt bad for that first dude. Got his head chewed off, and then I guess it just finally got to the rest of the body later on, but I wonder if that's them keeping that alive of like, well, we have aliens we don't really need, so let's feed. I mean, maybe it's not just alien. Maybe that thing just eats anything. Maybe it's very specific aliens it eats. I don't know. Also, was that thing voiced by Clancy Brown? It sounded like Clancy Brown's voice, but maybe I was hearing things. It sure as shit sounded like Clancy Brown, so I thought that was interesting if that was the case. But I was like, where's that storyline thread go? Come like, they went too out of their way, because I think that was the start of the episode was with that. So I was like, where's that going? We'll talk about when we get to it later, but I love Harry getting aboard the ship and tossing the Greys. Once again, completely unnecessary, like when he grabbed both of them by the neck and tossed them, and there's that one as he, like, they just focus on its arm and leg dangling, and then it falls. I'm like, you didn't even have to include that, like, ragdoll scene. It's like, it was completely unnecessary. Probably cost you some extra money VFX-wise, but it was like, it was completely unnecessary. But I appreciate just, like, the ragdollness of the body. Like, you know, who doesn't love some good, like, ragdoll physics? I mean, obviously, we're not talking, like, crazy video game ragdoll physics of how stuff can go, but still, it's just like, it was like so unnecessary. And then look, I'm like, why is it staying on a shot? Oh, it's the body going? Oh, the body fell. Okay, it was like completely unnecessary. I love it. And obviously all this is going down. We finally had the conversation back on Earth between Kate And Ben, I'm like, good, because I was like, all right, when is this conversation going to happen? I thought maybe episode 7, but now it's happening now. It's like, right, they're both nervous about telling each other, the thing, and they finally do. And I love that it never correlated in their heads the entire episode. Like, oh my God, who has been around us constantly talking about there being aliens? Who's even accused Harry of being an alien? It never crossed their mind like, hey, maybe we should ask Max about this, because he'll probably tell you like, no, I told you aliens are real. I told you that Harry's an alien, but you don't want to listen to me. But it's like, no, because they're like, no. It's because they believe Harry so much of like, oh yeah, that's just Max's overactive imagination. He's crazy. It's like, I think that's so funny that still never clicked in their heads. Because they're like, okay, their concern is, oh my God, if they've been taking us, does that mean they've been taking Max as well? It's like, oh, let's check him for a chip. I love also like the closet room that they're in is like, he's like, oh, Ben's like, what's that smell? She's like, yeah, you've been getting a lot of returns for your candles from your Etsy shop. He's like, wow, hurtful. I'm like, wow, how long have you not gone in that closet? Or, I mean, understandable, there's probably some closet unless you have a reason to go in there, you won't. Maybe Kate chose a closet like, Ben's never going to come in here, so I can just hide him in here and not worry about it. I also love how that was shot. It's just complete darkness, and all you can do is see like the light from underneath the door, and you just see their feet moving and turning. I don't know why I like that for whatever reason. But yeah, they're checking Max, saying like, oh, we're checking you for lice. Which it turns out Max actually does have lice, which I love that. It's like, oh, that was an excuse, but yeah, actually Max does have lice. And they were going to get the chips taken out. And ultimately Ben does, but Kate doesn't. Because for her, it's like, this is the only tie we have to our baby. And if I can get back on that ship, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to get our baby back. But Ben's like, no, I thought we were going to do this together, like find another way. But for her, it's like, they've been taking me for a while. They've been taking you your entire life. You needed this more than I did. And I don't want to I want at least one of us to be able to go back there to be able to get our baby back. Because any other way, I mean, they don't know they have other allies. I mean, yeah, they know Darcy, but they don't really know anything else. So they also don't know, about Asta and Harry, and that there is a whole like government agency about this. So understandably, that's going to, those dots aren't going to connect to them like, oh, like who can we turn to in this situation? To be fair, Harry and them were off dealing with their own things, so. We also had just like, once again, the little subplots where we had the whole situation with Liv and Mike and ultimately Lena showing up. It's like, oh, like she heard about some people walking around with guns, when I'm like, yeah, but they're clearly in their uniforms. Even I thought that was some BS. I was like, well, people could clearly see like, yeah, they're walking around with their guns and they're trespassing and stuff, but it's like they're clearly marked in their uniforms. They're wearing their jackets, they're like badges and stuff. But it's like, no, it turns out Lena was tracking them just to make sure they're okay. Yeah, but I also love Lena and Mike are so much alike, because she's like, aliens aren't real. That's just a government a lie, misinformation that they spread to cover up their genetic splicing. And it's like, whoa, if I didn't think you were perfect already, I sure think you are now. And she's like, oh, you thought I was perfect, huh? And I'm like, oh, look at you two being so cute. And so that's, yeah, like they are in a better place. It's just like, he's like, obviously time away made him kind of realize stuff, like his conversation with Dan, and was that last episode or the episode before last, like really kind of put his head on straight when it came to this. So it's like, right, she's like, I know I can come off a little strong, and she's just like, I just want you to meet me somewhere in the middle. And the middles, I love that they became a literal thing of like, oh yeah, like literally between your town and my town. It's like, yeah, it's actually, I'm a little over in your town. He's actually, so I'm kind of going a little above and beyond. I'm like, I'm glad you two are together. Like that's so cute, because obviously she's good for you, Mike. So I'm glad. Which, once again, I always say that it's stupid, it's narcissistic, but it feels weird when I like call characters that have my name. I don't know, it gets in my head too much. I'm like, when I say Mike, I'm like, ugh, that's weird. Ugh. I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing of having, like, when I talk about characters that have the same name as family members. I know it's stupid, but it feels weird. I'm like, ugh. Talking about them like they're a different person, because they are not. You get what I'm saying. We also had the situation of, yeah, Joseph helped save the day. He went back to Harry's cabin, because it's like, yeah, let's kind of meet back up there, because I was like, I'm curious where this Joseph storyline is going to go. But the government folks showed up because the general used this to toy out Peter, which we did not get any like full-blown like Terminator reference. Not, once again, maybe I'm not remembering those movies as much as I thought I would. I definitely remember the second one a little more than I do the first one. I guess it depends, because I feel like Judgment Day's most people's favorite one. I'm sure there's a lot of people who really love the first one as well. But either way, tangents and all that aside, maybe there were some subtle ones I didn't get. But either way, Peter is attacking Joseph, and it's like, oh, I should have done a better job killing you. But the whole interaction made Peter realize his subconscious awakened and he was himself again. And it's like, wait, this shouldn't be possible. I even love the general be like, all right, kill him. Because it's like, well, you made him into the ultimate alien killing weapon, and now trying to kill him doesn't actually work, and he bounced. I'm like, well, that kind of blew up in your face. Your ultimate weapon, or at least one of your main weapons against the aliens, kind of literally ran away. And she's also keeping Joseph alive because she's like, well, I need your portal. And I'm like, I'm like, oh. Harry did explain the whole Goliath situation of like, yeah, I went back in time. Well, a version of me went back in time, and you're like, so she's probably trying to go back in time and save her dad, most likely. Maybe make it so, well, because that's also a complicated thing, because you're like, what? Well, maybe she's going to try and grab her dad and bring him to the future. It's like, oh, maybe when she thought her dad died, maybe it's a timey-wimey thing of I always went back in time and grabbed my dad and bring him back to present day. Like, that's how I keep him alive type of situation. Because that's also the thing. Like, if she changes things, she changes her future by making it so that, hey, I never become the person I become. So you always have to be careful with the timey-wiminess butterfly effect. I can only assume she was going to go back and grab her dad and bring him back to present day type of situation, like to keep him alive, but also to keep her on her path. That way you can make the argument on some level because that's also like, it's the Ouroboros of it all. Of like, you've seen your dad die, so it is that kind of like it happens so that you can go back in time to save your dad, but you need him to die first for you to kind of like play out the whole cycle. If that's the direction that's going, that's the only thing I can think of. Maybe there's something else she plans on doing that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. Getting back to the situation on the ship, luckily Harry got to Darcy and Asta, and they end up running into Peter's son, and it's like, oh wait, he's like, oh, son. He's like, I'm not your actual son, Bridget. See, this is your brother. It's like, yes, family comes in different shapes and sizes. It's like, well, you came here to blow up the ship, but you just said, you said you knew I was up here, but you just said you were blowing up. He's like, oh, you're twisting my words. Darcy's like, no, that's exactly what you said. And I love later, he's like, I did try to text you. Remember, I tried to give you like the purple thumbs up, but I couldn't find anything like that, so I used the eggplant instead. Trying to like make him not too worry about like, yeah, I was gonna blow. It's also not a good thing to blow up the ship too, because we also see like, yeah, there's a shit ton of babies here, innocent babies. I don't think Harry would have cared too much, but yeah. So it is a situation of that's probably, because obviously they're completely unaware, because at that time Darcy didn't know about the babies being kidnapped and stuff. So it's kind of a good thing that ultimately everything didn't work out, because it's like, yeah, I mean, you were going to need more. Well, who knows how much damage that bomb would have done in the grand scheme of things, because we ultimately find out that this isn't a ship. I mean, well, maybe it is a ship. Maybe we're kind of going Death Star here, but it might be more like it's just the entire moon is a base. It's probably not even really a ship. It's not even, I mean, the Death Star was kind of a ship and a base. Well, I'm saying that I'm not the Star Wars dude, so it's someone who's more knowledgeable in Star Wars be like, no, you idiot, it's blah, 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 right? Either way, that's why I'm like, the bomb probably would have made a dent in some of their facilities, but the entire moon is the facility, so, which makes you wonder, like, is it going to be a thing of, oh, it's not actually a real moon, they replaced the real moon? I doubt that, because it probably would have noticed a lot of weird stuff on Earth if that wasn't really the moon, so they probably modified it. It does make you wonder if they've I mean, I guess as long as they've hollowed it out to make it into like their base of operation, would that have any effect as long as the moon's the same on the outside? How that affects like tide and stuff here on Earth. Like, I'm curious what the changes they made, what kind of effect. Maybe they've kind of made it so that it has a little effect on Earth so no one recognizes it. What those changes would do. and have any effect. Like, it wouldn't have any real noticeable effect on Earth. I don't know. That's me getting too heady about it. But I also love Bridget and Harry dealing with the Greys. That had to feel good, like ripping them to pieces and stuff like that. So Darcy ended up running after Kate, and this is where she finds out, like, okay, not only is Kate, like, obviously she already knew Kate was being kidnapped. She's the one that opened Kate's eyes last episode, but now it's also the situation of, oh, her baby's here, and she's even thanking Darcy, saying, like, right, I might not remember this, so I wanted to say thank you, which I'm like, that's kind of, like I said, like, they haven't really been in a good space. This is like only their second scene together the entire season, so for this to kind of be a thing of, I think in that moment too, I figured, I was like, this is kind of like the good thing that Darcy can do, you know, is help Kate in this situation. So, and they find all those moms, because we never actually got not the moms, like recordings of the moms, like kind of soothe the babies. And once again, I thrown it out there earlier what my thoughts were on what that was, because I thought the whole point was like, is this about replenishing your species and you're learning something from the humans? I'm like, I don't know what purposes. I mean, not unless this is, they never explained it, but I'm like, not unless this is part of the hybrid like process that, you know, because I'm like, I don't remember them explaining, like, are the hybrids humans that are injected with gray DNA? Is it kind of similar to, spoilers, it's years old at this point in time, so it should be fine. Like the boys, like, oh, they inject compound V into kids when they're babies, right? So what if it's a similar thing of, oh, you're a normal human baby, but then, like, we modify you later on, or when we take these parents while they're pregnant, we modify them so these babies, like, for example, Kate's baby is already a hybrid. Like, that's what I'm curious if that's what that is, because I'm like, I don't understand any other reasoning for that. Because I'm obviously, like, parental connection is necessary for a decently adjusted, like, but I'm like, why go through all this? Because I guess maybe they've tried not having, you know, someone raised, you know, if you're just raised in the lab by the Greys, like, it makes you a little crazy. It doesn't, maybe like, what they need you to be, like, programmed in all your loyalty to the Greys doesn't work out the way you would need it to. It's interesting because if they are making more Greys, hybrids, why would they need that? Especially if hybrids are not going to survive the whole situation on Earth. Not unless it's them, like, needing slave labor. If that's what the, I mean, that seems like the Greys are the most hands off with that stuff. They handle stuff like on the ship and stuff mainly, but the Greys are the ones that handle things on Earth. So I'm like, are they supposed to be your muscle/labor? Once again, I'm getting too heady and deep, but I'm like, that's why I'm like, the one thread, I'm like, I don't know where that's going. Because my thought was that, right, you're going to need them to, you know, help does it help in some way repopulate the Greys or something? Like, that was my early on theory, but not unless it is a hybrid situation. I just don't know what purpose they'd serve if the planet's going to be uninhabitable for them once you terraform. And so, like, that's why I'm, like, so confused on what that is. I mean, and the fact is they kept Peter's son around too. I'm like, why are you keeping him? I mean, obviously you're experimenting on people. That's why you've bothered taking him again, and you've invested too much in him already since he was a baby. So that's when I'm like, I don't fully know what to expect from all that. That's the one thread we're still unclear about. Kate sadly got captured and her brain wiped, but luckily Darcy grabbed Kate's baby and bounced. But she runs into Austin. I'm like, oh, the problem is, I was like, at some point they had to have done a switcheroo because they went through too much trouble to set up that mantis thing that could shapeshift. And then just when, like, Peter's son and Harry are about to leave, it's like, whoa, you're going to leave without us? And Peter and like Peter's son's like, yeah, I was trying to tell him not to. And in that moment, I was like, that's not Harry. It's like, oh, where's Bridget? And I don't want to talk about it. Two things. One, it's like Harry would never. The first thing that came to mind was like, oh, well, if something happened to Bridget, they wouldn't have had that happen off screen. It'd be like something you see on screen, so there's that. But the most important thing is, Harry would never leave Austin behind. Darcy is a completely other equation. he wouldn't, and he'd argue for leaving her behind, but he'd never do it because of Asta. Yeah, he would never leave Asta behind. He cares too much for her. So Asta is a no-go. He would never leave her behind. Like I said, Darcy, Asta would make him feel bad about it and be like, no, we can't leave without Darcy. He's like, oh, fine, whatever. She'll survive. She'll be fine. He'd make excuses like that, but he'd ultimately save Darcy just because Asta would, insist him to do it. So I was like, that made me go, that's the alien. It switched spots with Harry. And sadly, I was like, oh, it's Austin. They're not going to realize. And they don't. They make it all the way back to Earth. He acts like, oh, he's sad. Because he can read people's minds. So he did. I mean, that's also the thing. Harry's such a weirdo that, even if you might not have the right cadence and stuff, he's like, well, I'm probably going to see death when I go back to work because I'm a doctor at 9 a.m. He's saying weird stuff like that. But that's also how Harry talks. So, of course, it's not going to seem weird to Asta. Which I'm sure the real Harry will probably be a little hurt by oh, you couldn't tell he was a fake? Why couldn't you tell it was a fake? Oh, you're supposed to be one of my best friends, Asta. You couldn't tell that wasn't me. I could tell that and Harry being hurt by that. But also, he was not too happy about the pie. It's but that's also another thing. If Harry was really Harry, sad or no sad, he would still probably eat the pie. I mean, to be fair, we don't really know. I don't remember if it really came up if he actually ate any pie while he was sad. It's to be fair, he was gorging himself during that time when he was sad because he ordered a pizza. So he wouldn't turn down a pie no matter how sad he was, So that should have been a clear sign. And the sad thing, too, is Harry's not here to appreciate the fact is Dan gave you... he once again, even Austin's like, well, the free pie thing doesn't matter because he always just steals them anyway. It's yes, but it's the sentiment. It's the notion that counts. But I was like, oh, poor Harry. Maybe Asta will be... Well, I was about to say Asta will be the first one to notice, but maybe she'll be of his friends... Well... Never mind, I have to strike that too. I was about to say if his friends didn't notice, but it's no, I love the person that's going to find out first is Max. The moment him and Sahar showed up, I was like, oh my God, he's going to see that this isn't really Harry because he's going to be able to see this thing for what it really is. And ultimately, when he sees him and sees that it's not Harry, he screams when he sees the Mantis form. So that's going to be interesting. So that kind of sucks that Harry and Bridget are stuck up there, prisoners to the grave. What are they going to do with Harry? He's kind of a prisoner of war now, and I don't know if they're going to try and use that to make leverage with his people. Probably not. Harry's probably on his own, so who knows where that's going to go and what this thing's going to do now that it's on Earth. Probably start murdering and eating people, so that's going to be complicated. Liv got a message, someone wanted to meet with her. I was like, who's this going to be? At first I was like, is it going to be Darcy explaining stuff to her? But it's nope, it's good old Peter. I was like, of course he'd reach out to his alien buddy, and now she's seeing him all cybernetic and stuff, and he's stuck like that, so they're probably going to keep that low-key. So that was interesting. Mike was investigating a call, and ultimately he ends up running into a grave, so now he realizes, oh, aliens are real. He just literally had a conversation with Lena a few minutes prior, a scene prior, saying oh, if I ever start talking about aliens, lock me up in a padded room. So now he knows that Liv is not crazy, especially if it's hey, here's Peter, so let's all compare and contrast notes. Which is so sad too, because his son stayed behind because he was right, there's nothing left for me on Earth, my dad's gone. It's no, he's still alive. Which obviously this didn't play out the way I thought it was. I was are we going to do a thing of he self-sacrifices himself for his son, he goes kablooey? Still could be a future plot point, but for now, he's still alive and kicking again, so probably no reversing what's kind of been done to him, so... Also, Joseph is still alive. He's at least locked up in some black site after everything. So, but now that the general's got what she wants, I don't know if she's going to keep Joseph around for long, but at least for now he's alive. So I'm curious to see if we're going to get anything with him in the future. It's sets up some really interesting developments. Oh, also Darcy, at the very end, we see her dropping off. Because obviously Kate came back and, Ben's all right, do you remember anything? She's no. So Darcy gets to, once again, and you even see her looking around kind of smiling yeah, I might not have been able to save the world, but I did do something monumental and important. So gets to bring their baby back to Kate. So I wonder how do they handle that situation. I guess now that she's got her baby back, they can finally remove the chip from Darcy, so they won't be coming after her. I mean, from Kate, so they won't be coming after her anymore. So some very, very, very interesting developments. At the time of me recording this, it hasn't been decided whether or not the show's coming back for a 4th season. I hope it does, because this is a hell of a cliffhanger to leave on. I need more Resident Alien. I love this show. I'm always excited when it comes back. I'm always sad when it ends, but I'd be so curious. I'm curious, like, nothing I've read. I think the creator of the show, kind of the showrunner, has said, like, I believe it's Chris Sheridan. I know he's one of the creators of it. Usually I feel like if you're the creator of the show, typically you're a showrunner, but maybe that's not always equatable. Because sometimes maybe you might take a step back and someone else might be the showrunner. Well, because I think, it was like an interview. I think it was like WonderCon recently, happened fairly recently, and I think he was apparently sharing some. I didn't read anything, but apparently he was like, oh yeah, he was sharing some ideas of what they're going to explore in a potential season 4. So nothing in that says like, oh, a final season, but it's like, once again, to me, the good gold standards maybe is up to season 5. I think that's a good benchmark to reach. But if they decide, like, I mean, I want a 4th season regardless, but if they decide, like, okay, the next season is going to be the final season, that's one thing. But I'd want the show just to keep going. Like, I hope this isn't in the end. I would get a little nervous and scary when, like, stuff doesn't get announced immediately, because you're like, oh man, there's going to be another season. Like, I hate shows being in limbo, because you also don't know, like, oh, maybe, like, because this is sci-fi and it's under the Universal umbrella. I don't know how much, like, Universal and NBC as a whole, like, decide stuff like this, because, like, once again, Sci-Fi is one of those subsidiary channels. It's always been a smaller channel regardless, but I don't know how much of that trickles down. I mean, it does happen sometimes when a larger network ends up being like, yeah, we're not going to send any money to this specific network under our umbrella for these particular shows. They don't merit it and they're not worth it. I hope that's not, because the show is hella worth it. So I'd love to see more of the show, and I'd be so curious to see what a 4th season entails, and what the structure of it's going to be. Like, maybe Harry would immediately get rescued by the Greys, which I also think that's kind of an interesting thing of, like, yeah, the Greys aren't done. It's still an ever-growing threat. They literally have an entire moon base, so that threat's not going to be dealt with now, so, and potentially having more Joseph being kind of like your insider to kind of help defeat the Greys and stuff. There's a lot to be to pull from and use for a potential season 4 to see where things end up going. But hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully we get another season, because I'd love to see what happens. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.